Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. So today is going to be a very special Tao of SK Wealth Academy podcast episode. It's going to be actually a lot shorter than my normal episodes, but I am going to upload this on iTunes. So see the show notes below if you haven't subscribed to me on iTunes yet, because as you all know, I'm going to disappear from YouTube very soon and just be uploading on iTunes. One of my one of my present listeners actually suggested I go and Steam It too. And I do remember opening up a Steam It account a long time ago. So I'll probably return to Steam It as well and start posting. I don't recall if you can post podcasts on Steam It or links to podcasts on iTunes, and also I'm on blueberry.com as well. But I'll check it out, and if I can, then I'll also upload the podcast to Steemit, STEEMIT as well. So today I want to talk about the speech given by Nick Foles, who was the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles, which is my hometown. Go Philly. And the post-Super Bowl speech, and he talked about the importance of struggle. And in fact, he said, embrace struggle. He said, don't run away from it, but he said, embrace it, because struggle gives you character. It forms the very foundation of your humanity. And that, as all of you who have been listening to me for a while know, that has been a message I've preached consistently over the last several years, especially on Snapchat. I think I don't know how many YouTube videos I made in which I preached that message, but I've been preaching on Snapchat for a while on the importance of struggle, that if you have been born into a privileged life, that you need to seek something. You need to seek a hobby that's extremely difficult to accomplish, that requires a lot of persistence, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to really learn about the importance of struggle, because struggle will give you the very foundation by which you will make correct decisions in life when times get hard, that will give you the personality to persevere and to continue on, to achieve certain things that are extremely difficult in life instead of giving up. Because God knows everybody's failed a lot in life if you've actually tried to achieve anything of value or importance. That's why I never understood. Let me just say, because Nick Foles even said, who was the winning Super Bowl quarterback, that he's failed thousands of times, in trying to accomplish certain things in life, but he's gotten back up every single time. And I've never understood. I remember when I was in graduate school, and that was when most of us were in our upper 20s, I would say. And I met people who actually told me that they've never failed in anything in life. And I was like, how is that possible? How could you be 28? How could you even be 25 and have never failed at anything in life? Either you're not being honest with yourself and being extremely arrogant, or you've never really tried to accomplish anything worth accomplishing in life, because there's nothing worth accomplishing in life that will come to you very, very easily. All require some level of struggle. So I was just dumbfounded when not only one person told me that, but multiple people have told me that they've never failed at anything they had tried to achieve in life. Because I can remember even at that point, I could name numerous failures in my life. The first time I tried to achieve my black belt in Aikido, I failed. When I lived in Los Angeles, I had gone through. For a while, I pursued acting, and actually, I originally had been given the impression that acting was easy because I had been given a lot of auditions in major movies. Now, not major roles, but I've been given the opportunities to go audition for small roles and speaking roles in several Hollywood movies. So I thought, well, this is really easy, at least to get auditions, but I didn't get any of them. So that's multiple failures there. And I actually hadn't quite learned in my life at that time the importance of persistence. So not that I was really dedicated to the craft of acting at that point. I was actually more interested in being a writer, and even then I failed multiple times and still am failing, because I wrote a novel and my novel had been picked up by an agent. An agent, actually, who was the granddaughter of John Steinbeck, who, if you're American, you know, wrote a few classic novels like The Grapes of Wrath, Of Mice and Men. I think that's another novel he wrote. And originally I'd been picked up, and my novel was going to be published, but then some things happened that were quite tragic in my agent's life, and so she wasn't able to continue her work as an agent, and had to take a couple of years hiatus, so that didn't happen. So after my book deal fell apart, I actually went online and self-published at lulu.com, lulu.com. So my novel, if you want to check it out and give a brother some love, it's called The Staggering Depths of Blissfulness, and you can find it on lulu.com. I actually have written a couple of screenplays. I wrote a screenplay in which I'm trying to get out about it actually ties into Plato's Cave, because it's the Plato's Cave is that story that I spoke about in my last podcast episode, in which we are like the prisoners in Plato's Cave, facing the wall, the cave wall, just watching these shadows of objects passing through a fire that we believe are our reality, because those shadows are our banking system. Those shadows are our academic system, which we believe is education. The banking system, we think currency is money, and is not, at least is not sound money. We look at those shadows, and we look at these, these dog and pony shows being played out in the political processes and all this infighting. We don't realize behind closed doors that these political parties are fighting with each other, are actually working against all of our best interests and actually our friends. And that's just a big show, a smoke and mirror show to distract us and to keep us voting for people that we want to be our messiahs and saviors, when none of them are ever going to be, at least as it exists, as all the political forms of government that exist today. There's no savior that's going to come through the form of our prime minister or president. It's an absolute joke, but yet people believe. They believed in Vicente Fox. They believed in Barack Obama. They believed in all these people that could be their heroes, and wanted. And what that does is extremely harmful, because it takes away from our own personal responsibility. We look to other people to save us instead of taking personal responsibility for our own lives, which is also, as all of you know, the huge message that I've been preaching for years, is that we need to take personal responsibility for our own successes, our own failures. I'm going to keep trying for the screenplays, for the 2 screenplays. I'm working on a 3rd screenplay that I've written that I haven't been able to sell yet. So who knows, maybe I'll never sell them. But my hope and dream is to get them made into movies. So, if anyone out there listening knows a producer, a director that might be interested in finding somebody new in the industry, a new writer, please send them my way, because I'm not going to give up, and I'm going to keep trying to market and sell my screenplays and turn them into movies until the day I leave planet Earth. So who knows? I'm going to keep the struggle alive, but even if I fail until death, I'm going to keep trying. And we see social media today uplifting people that are so full of braggadocio, to saying, there's no one better than me at what I do in this world. I'm the best at what I do, and no one can even compare. No one can do this. And, they're full of fake braggadocio and not true humility. And I believe we should be pushing humility to the top, not this braggadocio, self-praise, and prideful boastfulness. Those are the things I think we should not be uplifting, but in fact, the people that engage in those 3 characteristics are like the most popular social media, whereas those that are humble, like Nick Foles, probably doesn't have, I don't know, I don't follow him on social media, but he probably doesn't have a lot of social media followers, or, that's why I even loved UFC champ Thug Rose's last message after she beat Joanna Jędrzejczyk for the UFC championship. and she said, I'm sick and tired of people just getting in each other's faces, trying to call out other people, putting people down. She said we need to love each other. We need to be kind to each other. And these are the characteristics in life we need to promote. And that is exactly right, because the people that are in power, TPTV, the powers that be, are trying to divide us. They're trying to do their best by forcing upon us all this divisiveness in religion, all this divisiveness amongst different races, all this divisiveness amongst politics, even this divisiveness in entertainment. They are trying to really divide and harm us instead of heal us with positivity. So that's why I love Thug Rose's message. So let me know what you think. Is humility more attractive to you, or is braggadocio and self-centeredness and narcissism more attractive to you? Because if narcissism isn't more attractive to you than humility, then I cannot understand why those that are the most narcissistic are the most popular in social media today. That makes zero sense to me. So please do comment below, because very few people comment on my videos. I don't know why. Like, no one ever comments on my video, because I am truly interested in your comments. I really, really am. So hopefully if you're listening, still listening to this episode, you're going to comment below to some of my questions. Also, I haven't told you how my failures in life have actually helped me out, but one way it helped me out is that I used to mentor gang members, or ex-gang members that had just gotten out of gangs in Los Angeles. And the way all my failures helped me out is that you cannot be fake with gang members. I'm going to tell you that right now. If you try to be fake and you try to go in and say, look, you can be the best because I'm the best. I'm the best at what I do. And you put on all this fake braggadocio, they are going to hate you and tear you apart, because that does not fly with people that have had so much struggle in their lives. So I was really grateful and felt blessed for all my struggles and all my failures in life, because that allowed me to connect with these gang members I was working with in Los Angeles. And hopefully, because even though it took a little bit of time for me to really form a bond with them, I knew that deep down inside they really, really started to trust me, and they really started to listen. I was really grateful that I was able to connect with them, because without those failures, there's no way I would have been able to connect with them. And to this day, I still would hope that at least with some of them, I was able to impact their lives and really make them think about wanting to create a positive life for themselves. So that's how all my failures helped me. So please tell me below how your failures have helped you in life as well and led to something beautiful, because that was something beautiful, my connection with those ex-gang members. Now, as all of you know, I don't watch a lot of sports. In fact, this was the first Super Bowl that I've watched in years, only because my hometown team was in it. The interesting thing that I found is that there are people, a lot of sports fanatics, like, hate on athletes if they don't perform up to their expectations, or if they're struggling through something. Because I saw people that hated on the winning quarterback who I just spoke about, Nick Foles, because he didn't perform well apparently in the last several games of the regular season, and they thought that the Eagles were going to be kicked out of the playoffs in the very first game. But when he performed well beyond expectations, then they loved him. Now, I always say that it's only a coward that kicks people when they're down. And when people are struggling to make it through the hardest, most difficult times, I see this behavior, and I'm not saying in all sports fans, but I'm seeing this behavior in a lot of sports fans, that they really hate on people that are, on athletes that are going through very difficult times, and they struggle, and they judge these people based upon their performance only. It doesn't matter if the person has a lot of heart or a lot of character, like I just said, because probably Nick Foles said some of the wisest things I've ever heard an athlete say as far as embracing struggle, because a lot of people shirk responsibility. When they have struggle, they want to blame everyone else for their struggles. Sometimes there are people to blame, but it's still makes a lot of sense to take responsibility for your own struggles, because that's going to build your character as a man or a woman, and or a girl or a young girl or young boy who's becoming a young woman or young man, and it's going to help you the most throughout life to embrace that struggle instead of shirking that responsibility and always blaming others for all the troubles that happens in one's life. And of course, I'm not just saying athletes. I think it's a sign of cowardice when you're hating on people in the worst times, which you see that outside of athletics all the time as well. You see people really piling on the hate to someone that is just going through a really bad time in life or one of their greatest struggles. So it takes a real man or a real woman to really uplift that person in a time of need. So I'm not really sure why it's become chic to do that, or maybe it's been that way all along in sports. And the irony of it in this type of reprehensible behavior in fans is that these very fans will often say something like, well, he makes millions of dollars, so screw him or screw her, because I have the right as a paying fan to heap all this verbal abuse upon this person because they make millions of dollars. And look at me, I'm not making anywhere near that money. So that's part of the game. That's part of what they have to take for making those millions of dollars. And this is why it's ironic. It's ironic because those type of fanatics that base their entire lives, whether their lives are good or bad, on their team winning, which is the most foolish philosophy in life, saying that they had a great day because their team won, or they had a terrible day because their team lost. And sometimes it's a terrible week when it comes to American football when their team loses for people. They're the very reason those athletes are getting paid so much money, because it's the sponsorship, it's the marketing, it's the advertising revenues from people that sit at home and watch these games religiously every single week or every single time a game is on, if it's basketball that they're a fan of. These are the very reasons these athletes get paid so much, because the owners are making billions of dollars in revenues and in merchandising fees, specifically because there are people that treat sports like a religious zealot and watch and consume so much of it instead of living a more balanced life. Again, like I said, I have nothing against watching sports for entertainment, as long as your life is just balanced, as long as it doesn't detract from doing other things like getting physical exercise that's actually going to make your life better. Whereas just watching sports may give you an endorphin rush, but it's certainly not going to improve your quality of life over the long term in a sustainable fashion, like so many other activities that one can be engaging in instead of watching sports can actually do. And here's the last thing I want to say, because in the lead up to the Super Bowl, I also watched this other documentary called Tom versus Time, which is about the Patriots, the other team, for those of you that don't watch any sports at all, which I'm pretty close to. But if you don't know who Tom Brady is, he was the quarterback for the other team. He's won, I don't know, lots of Super Bowls. He's been in a lot of Super Bowls since he's been in the league, and I think they said he's over 40 years old now, so they want to know how someone who is beyond 40 can survive in such a brutal sport as American football. I was more interested in a lot of the comments that accompanied the documentary, and there are people saying, I don't know why people hate on Tom Brady, because there are a lot of people rooting for the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl because they're just tired of seeing Tom Brady win. So a lot of people take up the position of the underdog, which was the other team that Tom Brady's not on, which was the Philadelphia Eagles. And people said, oh, Tom seems like a completely great guy from the documentary. And of course, I don't know Tom Brady. So I don't know if he's a great guy or not, but I was just looking at the comments to see why people said he was a great guy, and they say, look, he's a solid family man. He loves his kids. He loves his family. And my question is, since when does doing your responsibility as a father, that's what you're supposed to do as a father. You're supposed to love your children. Why is that something heroic? And why are people saying that makes this person a great person? And why does working hard? So he might have sacrificed it. Of course, he did seem like he sacrificed a lot more than other athletes to continue to play into his 40s. But that's a given. You know, if you're playing into your 40s, obviously you're going to be extremely strict with your diet, with your daily life patterns, getting enough sleep to recover, doing enough PT during the season to recover physically, where you're not going to be aging and breaking down physically as quickly as a lot of your colleagues or the great majority of your colleagues. So that is something that is admirable, you know, having that type of strict discipline to be able to overcome a lot of barriers that a lot of your colleagues cannot overcome. But the comments I would see about, oh, he was a great family man, and I don't understand why people can't see how great that is. That makes no sense to me whatsoever, because I think we're living in an age where we see things as heroic that should just be looked at as normal. It should be abnormal not to love your kids and not to love your family and not to want to take care of your family as much as possible. And there's so many, I wouldn't be commenting on this if there were not so many comments about him being a great family man. Like that was something to be really admired. I think it should be something that should not be admired, but something that should be the norm. But that's just the way I feel about it. So let me know, why do you think that is? Maybe it's just that people have come to expect evil as the norm, because you look at the world's leaders, it's certainly it's a cesspool of immorality across the board. So maybe when people look at, you know, the actions of the top corporate CEOs engaging in parabiosis, people like George Soros that says that the only thing he cares about is money, and that he cannot and will not and does not consider the social consequences of what he does. So if what he does earns him hundreds of millions of dollars but leads to the misery of 100,000 people, and maybe even indirectly causes them to die, he doesn't care. So maybe because people are getting used to hearing comments like that they think, oh, someone that takes care of their family, that's a wonderful trait. So maybe that's why, because we just see so much poor behavior amongst the so-called people at the very top of the food chain in wealth and in political power. So is that it? I don't know. Let me know what you think. Okay, I told you I was going to keep this short and sweet. Probably not as short and sweet as I would have liked it. But again, please comment below and let me know what you think of the topics I've spoken about in this podcast episode. And always remain intensely curious, and have a blessed day.